Welcome to the Business of Programming channel. Today I'm going to build the initial framework of a shortened URL service. I already have the shortened URL portion working for in-house purposes, but I'll be enhancing that and creating a more commercial version so I can start marketing it as a software as a service. I'll be coding in PHP, JavaScript, SQL, and using the Wizards Toolkit, which is a low-code development environment. While coding, I'll also be talking about the business aspects of creating a software as a service. First step was reviewing the competition, and there is a lot of competition in this market. This spreadsheet shows the basic stats for the most popular. From reviewing this and looking at their sites, one can determine the following. There is definitely a lot of demand for these services. Lots of free options are available and used to attract users, but then their paid upgrades are pretty pricey. General pricing rule is the more analytics provided, the more expensive the service. Before starting a company, always clearly define your intent and goals. Otherwise, you can easily get sidetracked by the minutia and spend hours, days, or even months working on aspects which are not really important. My goals for this software as a service are prioritized as follows. 1. Attractive finished product to showcase as a built by Wizards Toolkit, so I can show how fast and easily you can build powerful software as a service options and data-driven websites and mobile apps using the toolkit. 2. Good solid analytics for use by my own company. And 3. Commercial quality software as a service that generates some income. If this takes off and starts generating a lot of income, that's great, but that's not the primary purpose. So yesterday when I started reviewing the competition, I realized I don't want to focus and compete with the ones that offer the most advanced features and functionality. I love the analytics portion and I want that for my own needs, so I don't want to just build the bare minimal URL shortener service either. Note, if I was building this as my hopeful sole source of income, I would spend at least a week analyzing the competition and their marketing strategies, and I'd put a whole lot more time into designing my pricing structure and marketing strategy. What niche should I go after first? Which features have the most Google searches? And I'd poll customers of other services on what they like most or least about the competition. But that time investment is not in line with my primary two goals. So instead, yesterday I spent 90 minutes reviewing the competition's websites and their pricing and feature analytics that I had a colleague put together. Then I went fishing, so my subconscious could consolidate and absorb the mass amount of information to settle on a master plan. Here's the plan. One review site mentioned that most companies hide their prices. Ease of use was a barrier for some. Analytics are my specialty and one of the main determining factors for price justification. I want this to be a quick build, not a career. So, the goal of my finished software as a service is transparent pricing plan, which means undercut most competitors' pricing because my investment is minimal and server costs are negligible and scale up easily, but do not offer a free option. 2. Target market. Not the clients that want everything for free. Not the super techie. There are options where you can build your own shortened URL service, so I don't want to be competing with people that can just build their own, or that may want some really advanced functionality. The targeting is not going to be towards those that want thousands of links every single month. My target market is startups and creators that want affordable service with good basic analytics. The creator and startup market is exploding right now. So, I'm going to provide good comprehensive analytics, but I'm not going to go overboard because too many can become confusing for average users. When picking features I want to include, my determining factors are: is this a feature I would like to use for myself? And number 2, what is the time to code versus value ratio? If coding time is minimal, then sometimes I will add a feature even if I have no use for it personally. Some might need it and investment is minimal, as long as it does not detract or confuse the branding. So here are the features I have chosen to provide. Comparative analytics on referrer domain, operating system, device type, that being computer, tablet, or phone, and browser. I'm going to offer A/B testing, both types. I'm going to offer changing link destination based on Android versus iOS, or based on device type, computer, tablet, or phone. Link expiration, password protection, both of those are very easy to provide. QR codes, very easy to provide. Expert options for all raw data. IP address tracking, later may use this for country or city lookups, so it can offer those comparison analytics as well. By the way, I'm already doing the IP address tracking for my current version that's in-house. Note, after launching, if customers request other features, those can always be added later if there is sufficient demand. By the way, I'm having a naming contest. I haven't even come up with a name yet. I need a name for this software as a service. Whoever comes up with the best name will get 3 premium ShortLink accounts good for 5 years. The goal of the name is I want it to be wizard or mage based, because that's kind of the theme of Wizards Toolkit, Wizards Abacus, the mage page, which is our landing page services. So if you come up with a good name that is wizard or mage based for shortened URL service, you'll get the prize. Put the names down in the comments below. Alright, let's change the color theme. In Wizards Toolkit, it's as simple as just changing the color at the top, WTK for Wizards Toolkit. I'm going to change it from green to purple. I'm going to leave it at light because the dark theme, we're using a dark purple theme for our Wizards Toolkit administration section. So let's try the light and the purple for our ShortLinks website. Alright, refresh, and it's that easy. Yeah, I like that. I think later on I might change the top header so that it's not black text. Maybe I'll go with a white or a light blue. Actually, I'm going to leave that up to my UI specialist. I'm not a user interface or a GUI person. I have somebody that works for me that does all the GUI stuff. I like to work on the functionality and the wireframes and some of the navigation, but let somebody who has a passion for user design and colors and picking the right color palette, let them deal with all the things like that, and including the vertical spacing. Let somebody else deal with that stuff. So now, that was how easy it is to make a link to a new page. This is a short link add page. I like to verify that the navigation is working properly. I'm using some snippets that I created. I created a card snippet because anything that you use more than 2 or 3 times a week, you should make a snippet or a macro for. That way, you just type a couple of letters and it writes all the code for you perfectly, even if the code is just a div card that makes the page look a little nicer. And this is directly from the materialized CSS, which is our HTML, CSS, JavaScript backbone. And boom, now we have something that looks a little bit better. I'll end up putting a container around it so that it is more evenly spaced between the left side and the right side and looks nicer overall. For right now, let me just put in some general content. Not a whole lot, because that's not what building a wireframe is about. You're not supposed to make it perfect when you're building a wireframe. You're just making sure that the navigation works properly, going from page to page to page. And then on each page you can put the general information so that you know later on what you're going to be working on. So I'll make some quick links that will be simulating the list feature. I'm using Atom for my text editor. It's my favorite. It has some great features. That was a Command-Shift-L, allows me to affect multiple lines all at the same time. I can use the page in, page begin, and the left and right arrows to jump around. And then whatever I type on one line happens on all lines. It's a fantastic time saver. So let's change the folder structure because I want to keep all of the files that I want to track in my repository, my Git repository, in a separate folder. The WZ folder I use for Wizards Toolkit, and I track that in a Wizards Toolkit repository. So I don't want to keep the main files that I'm editing all the time in the WZ folder. So I'll put them instead in the SURL folder for short URL. And let's just create that here. And then that way in my Git repository it will be much easier to manage. Plus that way the files are in a empty folder, and I know that the only files in this folder are ones that are specifically related to managing the short links. So I'm just going to copy this, put it in here, and then I'll do a little bit of path changing if necessary. So now let's just test out our new form. This is just the basic options. I'll be adding the advanced features next. Alright, can we get it to save? Yeah, currently it's going to our dummy page, but let's see if it added the information. Yep, and there it is. Our wireframe is coming along real well. So here's jumping ahead to see what the page ends up as. Here's the HTML, and notice I'm using some, if I go WTT, it helps me, and I put in first the table name, and then the column name, and then the other columns are optional. This could also be like password, email, date, whatever, and then we'll automatically format that correctly based on the Wizards Toolkit PHP function. And then if you don't put in a third parameter, it will just add a space to the column name based on capital letters or underscores, so it will become a link name, but I wanted to have a better column name. And then after that it uses the grid, so M3 means for medium-sized screens, it uses 3, and S12 for 12 full screen all the way across for small screens like phones. I ended up creating a brand new switch based on the materialize CSS switch statement, and to do so I decided, well, of course I'm going to make myself a new function. So I made a function, WZ form switch, and that's what I do. I test things out on my own environments for my own software as a SaaS, and then once it's working perfectly, then I copy it into the Wizards Toolkit. So the Wizards Toolkit has this new great feature where you just pass a few parameters and it builds perfect HTML, pulling in the data using the SQL functions that have already been created, creating labels that mark them properly as active if it needs to be active, and uses the labels. And uses the checking functionality based on the switch. So, and here's the text area. Again, same thing where I create a PHP function that generates the materialized CSS, HTML, and CSS, passing in the SQL data. And I throw in a little HTML so it looks beautiful. And here's how it turned out. Name only visible to you, the short link or slug, and the go-to URL, to the advanced features. I have it hide, and I'm going to let my UI person decide if this should be animated to be like a fade in instead of an immediate, or a transition across, or whatever. Likewise with password. And right now I have it so that you can have either destination routing or A/B testing, but you can't have both. If you turn on A/B testing, it turns off the destination routing, and it mentions right here what's going on. Alright, well, the saving is all working. I added a few new columns to the SQL table. And this is like how the radio button works. You pass it into a array where you have the visible, and then you have the column, or the column value. Visible value, pass it in as an array, and this will make the radio buttons that look like this, which takes priority, device type, or phone OS. Which was an interesting little complexity. If you're doing dynamic destination routing and you're saying based on operating system and based on device type, it really would be nice to give them the option to do all of them. And then if something comes in and says, I know it's a tablet, but it wasn't able to determine if it was Android or iOS, or let's say it's a Windows tablet, then it will use the URL for tablets. Since the Android or iOS is not applicable, even if they say phone OS, it takes priority. So this way, using the advanced features, they have a whole lot of dynamic destination routing options. Overall, I'm very happy with the way this turned out. Got a lot more to do. During the development, I do the JavaScript right within the main PHP page, but after it's fully tested, then I migrate it to a separate JS file, so it's an external file and doesn't need to be pulled in every time the page is gone to, of course. I had a summary report, and I found that I could do it with just a couple lines of code using the, let me show you how I wrote that. This is in the Ajax chart report. And all it is a select statement, and then I call WZ report chart, and I removed a couple of the bar chart and the line chart, and I left the area chart and the pie chart and the regular report. Later on, I'm going to actually make this into, this is why I'm doing this. I'm creating everything using the Wizards Toolkit, and when I find I need a new feature, I do it first in this local environment, and then I end up finding a way to put it into the core library. So instead of doing a whole bunch of replaces to get rid of the bar chart and the line chart, I'm going to end up just passing additional parameters and have it then remove these for you, so that you don't need to know exactly how to do the same thing. And it will do all the math regarding changing the S2s to S4s or S3s, depending on how many items you're removing from the tabs. All right. I'll probably do a separate video that goes into all the charting capabilities. Like, I want this to have the ability to pop up and give a much larger chart, but right now it is updating the wrong frame. So I'm going to fix that in the Wizards Toolkit and then add it to the Wizards ShortLinks. And here is a report that I found I had created for Wizards Toolkit for me to track my old Wizard links, and it already has some of the basics. You know, what the tiny URL hash is, whether it wants to pass an ID for additional tracking, where it directs to, what domains have been referring to it yet so far, and then down here the pie chart or the area chart or the line chart or the bar chart for what domains have sent it the most views. Alright, I'll be uploading another code in public regarding the Wizards ShortLinks. Everybody, please put in the comments what areas you'd like to see more details on, and if you can come up with a good wizardly or mage-like name for this ShortLinks software as a service. So let's look how this code in public project is coming along. For the shortened URL project, I've spent 9.85 total hours, of which 2 3/4 of those hours were spent in project management and figuring out how I wanted to design this. 1.91 hours was spent in competitive research, checking out the competition so I can figure out what kind of pricing strategy and marketing strategy I want to do, which leaves only 5.19 hours spent actual coding. pretty darn good for what I got done. I will let you know how it goes after I put in another 5 hours. Have a great day. Subscribe for more on the business of programming.